All right, thanks, Anthony, and welcome everyone. This module that we're looking at today is part of a course material that we offer. So this is just a specific module. This is IBM Cognos BI, or Business Intelligence for the consumers or for the end users. So what we're going to discuss in the end of this module, you should be able to identify where our consumers are going to be accessing their content. So their reports that the authors have generated, or any other packages that have been published from the FM modeler, or so on. We're going to show you how to use published reports, so you can perhaps generate additional output versions of the reports and then send them to an email to another person. You can save to a file system, and we're going to show you how to use these published reports. We're going to show you how to drill through to related data, so either using drill-through definitions for package-based drill-through, or you can simply do a drill from one report to another within Report Studio. We're going to show you how to run reports with specific options that are available out there. We're going to talk about adding comments in saved output versions. So perhaps you have a saved report and there may be some numbers there that don't quite make sense to you, so you might want to put a little comment for anyone else that's going to be able to run that report. They'll be able to see your comments and then they can reply back. It's a sort of a collaboration piece within there. Show you how to personalize how the content appears. So we're going to show you within Cognos Connection just different ways if you want to look at detailed view rather than overview. Have alternating backgrounds, show you how to modify and change your styles. We're going to show you how to manage what's called human tasks. So we're going to create some new notifications and some new events within the My Inbox is what it's called. It's actually, what that is its own personal email notification directly embedded within IBM Cognos BI. So we're going to show you how to do that. We're also going to set some alerts and watch rules on some saved output reports. So for example, perhaps you see a cell value within a list or a crosstab that says, wow, I really want to pay attention to what this is saying right now. Notify me if that value maybe reaches a certain threshold. And so I can then have notifications being sent either through email, like perhaps a news item could be created and have that flashing big red bold on my desktop. Just something, some way of being able to look at things. So during the slide deck, I've actually made a little bit of modifications. So I'll be doing a demonstration of most of these features at the very end of this presentation. So we'll just do the slides first. So where do consumers access BI content? Before we get into this, I do want to mention really what a consumer is. So when we install IBM Cognos Business Intelligence, there are a number of different roles that make up the entire suite. For example, there may be a system administrator who can be that role. That would normally be the person that has installed and configured IBM Cognos BI. They're in charge of fine-tuning the dispatchers and really the whole system as a whole, right? So they add data sources, distribution lists, printers. They manipulate the themes for different users that log in. So that would be a system administrator role. Now, perhaps in your organization, you're in charge of creating or generating your reports. So you have advanced report authors. That could be another role. Directory administrators is a role. So they would be in charge of creating the folder structure and the directory structure within IBM Cognos Connection. And then you have the consumers. So consumers really are broad. There's two different types of consumers. Those are those individuals that have simple read access to folders that contain reports. And they'll be able to see the report, so then they can click on a report. But what they're doing is they'll be looking at the last execution of that report. So they may be looking at stale data. At least they can see the report and run it. Whereas you may have another type of consumer who has execute privileges, meaning that as soon as they click on the report, they're actually executing the report. They're running the SQL behind the covers against the package to fetch the most current data. So those are really the two types of consumers that we're looking at. So where is this data going to be held? Well, under My Content, which is on the welcome page, there's a number of different options here. First of all is My Home. Any folder that a user has access to, so any specific directory structure folder that's within IBM Cognos Connection, they can set as their home view, meaning that whenever they log in, that's the view that they're going to see. So they don't have to go through the breadcrumbs or browse around to find their information is directly in front of them. Another area is My Dashboard. So any individual user that, of course, has the proper permissions can create their own dashboard view. And this dashboard view can be a number of different widgets that shows different parts of the content, right? You could have a navigation widget, which will allow you to browse up and down your directory structure within IBM Cognos Connection. You could have a search widget or RSS news feeds if you want. So you could have a weather report showing up or a news feed, all encapsulated within My Dashboard. Again, that's just a view that each individual user will have. Then you have IBM Cognos Content. So this is the main area. This is where the public folders are and all the different folders that contain the reports and the packages and different views that, again, the user will have access to. That's probably going to be the top level area, the most sought after area is the IBM Cognos Content. Following that, you have My Inbox. So this is that specific email or notification area that every individual user will have. So it might be a good idea to have this even set up as their home page so that when they log in the morning, they can see has their manager or director given them specific tasks that they need to accomplish or notifications. It's a broad notification area. And that's all within My Inbox, and we'll be showing you that as we go through. So published reports. So these are reports that a report author is generated from their report studio, and analysis studio, and they've now placed this report out in IBM Cognos Connection in some folder that a user could have access to. So what can they do? Well, they can either view the latest output of a report. So that means that perhaps somebody else had actually ran the report and they generated an output version, whether it be an HTML format or PDF format or so on. And then whenever the user or the consumer clicks on that link, they're going to see the last version of the output report. Or what they could do is run a report with specific options. Now, of course, this is a capability that has to be granted by the system administrator, because you may not want all users to be able to generate multiple output versions of a report. You really want to limit the focus for this. But they can run a report with specific options, such as running a report in the background and generating a number of different output versions. They can send an email, save it to a file system, just specific options that they can do. They can create a report view, or really it's a view or a shortcut of their actual reports that they want to keep separate view from them. Then maybe they don't want any modifications to their view of the report to be made. So that's their specific view of that report, if you will. And of course, if they have the capabilities, they could schedule reports to run. Maybe you have a report that takes an extra long time because the SQL that's being used under the covers or behind the scenes is rather large and it's going to take longer to run. So why not schedule this report to run perhaps at midnight where nobody else is using the server, and then you come in first thing in the morning, the report's been already completed, and you have a fresh view of your information. So we have the option also to drill through to related data. So you may have a target report that already exists, and you know that that target report's there, and you go and you start off within a source report. So maybe you're looking at a high-level view of information that you're looking at, but you want to be able to then drill through a bit to find more bits of information or more detail. So what you simply do is you run the report. The report's going to open up in IBM Cognos Viewer, which is just simply the web page that shows you the output of the report. And within there, you can do a right-click or choose on from the toolbar and say go to related links, and then you maybe see a target report that you can just click on that target report, pass whatever parameters you have, if you do have any parameters or prompts in the report, through to the target report, and there you go. So that's a drill through to related data, and this is using what's called the drill through definitions, which is available from the launch menu. Again, that's only a specific capability if it's been granted. So what are the specifying the report options that you can do when you're running the report? So you could run the report, have it run in the background. Perhaps you know that, again, it's going to be a long report that's going to run. You don't want to sit there waiting for the hourglass to keep turning to run the report. You know eventually it's going to get finished, so why not just run the report in the background and then you'll be able to access it at a later time. Schedule your report to run. We have a fantastic scheduling application, so you can schedule by minute, by day. You can do it every second Thursday of every second month if you want. Really, you can get into the in-depth of your scheduling of your report. You can generate the different output versions of the report, right? So you can do an HTML version or a PDF. There's different Excel versions. You can do it as an XML version of a report. Just different outputs. You could actually choose a different language. If you have when we ship out of the box, we ship our application in different languages. So you could either choose to look at our application or the generic IBM Cognos Connection web pages in a different language, or even if you have the underlying data that supports that language that we have as well, you could choose to have the content in one language and the output version in the same language as well. So again, just different options when you're running your report. And also the delivery method. So how do you want, now that the report's been generated, it's been run, it's successful, you have the latest data, maybe you want to share this with your other users. So you could then copy and paste it to a different location that maybe your users have access to. You could email the report output or a link to the report. Just something that, one way of delivering your view of your report. So you can also specify properties of an entry or properties of a report. So you can change some of the general settings, such as the description. Define what this actually report is trying to get across. So you can modify the description, modify the number of report output versions that you want to keep. Perhaps the data changes very frequently, and you want to be able to have a record of what the data that was in the report from last week. So imagine that your report's going to run once a day for 7 days. Maybe you want to generate 7 different versions of a report. And once you do that, once you have all these different output versions, other users that use the dashboarding applications, such as Cognos Workspace, can then go in and choose what version or view of their report that they want to have included within their dashboard. There are some default run options that could happen. So for example, whenever you click on a link, maybe you want to either view the latest output version, perhaps you want to automatically open that report up in the studio that it was generated or created from, or maybe you actually want to execute or run that report. So those are some of the run options that are available. There are specific prompt behaviors and prompt values. So imagine you have a report that has prompts already encapsulated within inside there. Maybe you want to set up a default value so that whenever the report runs, you know that your geo is, for example, North America. So if you have a region as a prompt, you could set that to either Canada or the US. Hard code that so that whenever a user runs a report, they don't have to scroll to look at their specific area. And also you can specify the permissions of an entry. So there are 5 specific permissions that govern all objects within IBM Cognos Connection. So those 5 permissions are read, write, execute, set policy, and traverse. Read, meaning that yes, you can actually see the object that's in there and that you could click on it, but if you only have read access, then you're only looking at the last output version. Perhaps you have write access. So that means that you have the ability to delete the object, or you have the ability to modify the description of the object. Execute, well, that's self-explanatory. That means that you can actually execute the report in order to fetch the most current data. Now, set policy, which is the 4th permission, that means that you have the ability to grant other users the ability to either read, write, execute, or traverse and set policy. And finally, the traverse, that simply means that you can traverse up and down the chain. So you can look at an existing object, and perhaps you can go see the parent of the object folder, or you can look at the children of that object. It just means that you can go up and down from that location where you currently are at. Now you can add comments into your saved output versions. So in Cognos Viewer for an HTML, PDF, or an XML version of a report, and there's a little toggle switch within the properties of a report that allows this functionality. But once it has been checked and you have generated output versions of the report, then you'll be able to apply whatever comments you want to any of these, to the actual report outputs as it stands. And then, of course, other users would be able to see those comments of yours. So you can also personalize how the content's going to appear. Maybe you want to have a more stylish background whenever you launch Cognos Connection. Maybe you want to be looking at details rather than an overview of your public folders view. Maybe alternating backgrounds. Perhaps you want to look at yours in a different language or in a different theme. You can certainly change and personalize your data for what you want to look at. You can also organize your content. So if you have the ability to, you can do copy and paste, create URL links, create some shortcuts to other reports. Really, these consumers, they want to make this visible or visually appealing for themselves because they're the ones that are going to be looking at this screen for most of the day, if in here quite a bit of time. Then we have what's called the managing the human tasks. So as I said, this provides insight and meaning into the performance results. So you can create projects, you can create new notifications or new tasks. And when you do this, you're actually specifying, okay, a potential owner, you choose who the stakeholder is going to be. Maybe you say that you have to have a start date and an end date. And if you do not complete this by a specific time, then notify the manager, and they can go up and down the chain. So it's almost like a notification or an email directly embedded within there. So as soon as any users launch Cognos Connection or the consumers, they'll pretty much go to the My Inbox just to see what their daily activities could be. You can put comments in, and of course this will provide insight into past decisions. So you can have a trail of all the tasks that have been performed by day, by week, by month, and so on. So again, looking into your past decisions, really to see how your business is performing. So you define tasks in My Inbox, either it be a new task, a regular task, or a notification. So the users can view and filter the tasks out, so they can do it by start date or when it's required. They can also respond to approval notifications. They can say, yes, I'm going to take charge of this thing that you've given me, so I'm going to start this task up. And the administrators, well, they can create ad hoc tasks and notifications. They can set the priority, whether this is a high priority, get it done right away, or perhaps, you have a week to do something like that. They can update the status of this. They can, change the priority, say that, okay, this has to be done in a hurry now. They can identify the start dates and when the things are due. Plus, they can also specify the rules that are going to take place. As I said, if you hadn't started it by a certain time, then notify me so I can at least maybe hand it off to somebody else, or I can find out why it's taking so long. Now, enhance event management. So this is the event studio notification and approvals. So there is an approval request. I have a job for you to do. You, as a consumer, you can say yes and no, or no, I don't want to do this, or yes, I will. Perhaps they can forward this off to somebody else who may know more information about it. There's also notifications events. There's watch items. These are, watch for new versions of a report. That's a great one, because imagine if I have a report that's running that I always look at, but I'm very concerned about making sure I have the most up-to-date data. Well, perhaps there's a new version of a report. If I can specify that to watch new versions, then automatically I'll get an email notification that says, this report has just been run. It's the most common version of the report, or the latest version. Let's go take a look. So that's the version alerts. And there's also the watch rules. This is where you're saying, okay, that specific cell in that report, there would be a list or a crosstab, that interests me, so I want to focus on that cell. If anything changes in that cell, then alert me. So that's one of the watch rules. And of course, you can receive notification by email or by a published news item. You can have a news item that will, a brand new object will appear in your inbox or whatever folder that you specify as your home that says, you know, you can even make it, it's all HTML, so you can make it bold, flashing red, big, you know, alert, take a look at this new report that's been generated. So those are some of the other things you can do for the event management. You can create dynamic dashboards. Now this is a bit of a different than what is Cognos Workspace. So Cognos Workspace, which is really the dashboarding application, that's for bringing over already created reports and placing them onto your dashboard. So it's your own consumer, your own view of your area or line of business. Now, another way of looking at dashboards is by looking at out-of-the-box widgets that come shipped with IBM Cognos Connection, such as the navigator, the search, or the IBM viewer. Right? Remember, if you're going to run a report, the report's going to show up in the IBM Cognos viewer. Or you could have an RSS viewer, right, to have your weather network or your, you know, the regular news feeds that could show up within your RSS viewer. So this is just another way of having a dynamic dashboard. And of course, you could create a multi-page dashboard. So you're not limited to just one dashboard. For you could have multiple tabs that will show up within IBM Cognos Connection. Each one could be your own specific view of your business. So imagine if you are a C-level who's in charge of a lot of different areas. You could have a dashboard for marketing, a dashboard for sales, a dashboard for production, another one for customer support. And, you know, really mix and match. You can include widgets that ship out of the box with existing reports that have already been generated. Really just mixing and matching. And as you can see, you could have your tabs vertically or horizontally on your page. The sky is the limit, really, when it comes to customization within the Cognos Connection. We can also use global filters. So this will dynamically drill up and drill down on specific portlets. So you can see in this screenshot, I have 4 different widgets there. I have a global filter with a year prompt, and we can see that year happens to be a data item that exists in both the pie chart with year. You also have the specific report with year and product line. Now, the global filter on the top left-hand side, perhaps I want to drill down, or if I choose 2011, then it would dynamically filter the pie chart and the report in the top right-hand corner with the 2011 data. So it allows you to, one prompt that will filter data for other reports on a page, or if you were to, example, drill down on a parent to a child, then it will dynamically drill onto the child within these other reports. Now, when we talked earlier today about the different roles, right? So the system administrator is going to be the top level role, and then you have different other roles such as directory administrators, business authors, or report authors. Really, the groups and roles, they're a collection of users that are defined that can all do the same thing. So if, for example, you are a report author, an advanced report author, that means that you'll all have access to Report Studio in order to author or create advanced reports that will then be accessible to your consumers when they log in. So there are some predefined roles that we have out here. For example, the consumers, which is what this module is all about, you know, the end user. Then you have query users or analysis users. So query users would be individuals that would have access to Query Studio and just generate ad hoc queries. Whereas analysis users, those would be the ones that would be looking at, you know, pure dimensionality data within either Analysis Studio or PowerPlay Studio. Then you have generic authors. So an author is somebody that can generate a report. Server administrators. So these would be individuals that would be in charge of you know, fine-tuning the dispatchers and the servlets and all the different processes that make things up, right? You can set your auditing or your logging levels within there. That's what the server administrator. And of course, there's a number of different custom users that are available and additional out-of-the-box roles. So essentially what you do is that you link a specific user in the organization from a third-party authentication provider. It could be Apache Directory Server, Sun1 Directory Server, LDAP, some sort of application that contains all the users in your company. So you link those users with these predefined roles. And then by default, these roles are then linked to the studios. So that's how you grant out-of-the-box permissions to access your information. So we saw this as more or less of creating the dynamic dashboard advanced. So a dashboard can also include a portal page within an existing portlet. So you could have a page inside a page, which is inside another page. Really, this is just showing you the advanced ways of customizing your end look for your different users. So you can also access shared content. And of course, this depends upon your role. You can either secure your content by setting access permissions for the entries. If you are an owner of an object, by default, you're the owner, so you have access to say, okay, that user down the hall, one of them has execute privileges, whereas the other one only has read privileges. So you can set your access permissions to share your content, such as the reports and your portal pages. Your content, of course, it inherits the permissions of the folder it is saved in by default. So whatever permissions in the parent will automatically trickle down to the child or to any other object that you're placing inside that folder. The content, of course, can be copied and then shared among users, and it can be secured to individual users, groups, and roles. That's how the security is provided through here. So with that being said, I'm going to do a demonstration now of some of these features that we've actually gone through. I don't know if I'll have time to do all of the features, but we'll just start off starting off at the beginning. So this is the welcome page, and you notice that within my content, there's my home, my workspace, Cognos content, and then my inbox. Now I'm logged in as the admin person, and I'm just going to log on again because I believe my ticket may have expired since the last time I was in here. So my namespace is called LDAP. That's just generically what I called it. I'm logging in as the admin person, who I've set up as a system administrator. That's another role that is within here. So I'm going to start off within IBM Cognos content, or IBM Cognos Connection. This is the main area where most of your users are going to reside. So you can see I'm logged in as the admin person, and I actually have a new tab in here I created myself, a sales and marketing page. That just happens to be an additional page that was in there, and we'll get to that momentarily. But within public folders, again, this is the main content where all of your packages, your reports, your shortcuts, custom views, and really everything that you need to work with is going to be contained. So you notice I have a couple of folders here. We can differentiate that from looking at the yellow folder. And then my other icons below here, these are packages. So packages are published from within Framework Manager. And your report authors, they create reports based upon the package, because the package really is the metadata or the layer on top of the database that you now want to generate your reports off of. I have a report or a folder here called New Horizons that I created earlier, or from our last demo. And here's a generic report that I have, product and order method report. So as a consumer, I would come in here and I would run this report, or I would just click on that link in order to run this report. So I could scroll down on this report. I know that this report consists of a crosstab, a list, and a chart. So if I were to go to the bottom of the page now, what it's going to do is there's my crosstab, and there's a little chart that I have on here. So this is the report that we're going to be looking at. I am the owner of this object that was created. That's why I have these capabilities. Really, disabling the entry just means that it's visible, but you cannot see it. If you hide that entry, that means that nobody can see it at all. And you may want to do this because maybe you're practicing. You're creating reports, but it's not really ready for consumption by your end users. So you have the ability to see it, but nobody else will. So you can either, again, disable or hide that entry. You can choose the different language that you're looking at, and of course we ship out of the box with a number of different languages that are available out there. I can specify my name, my screen tip or tool tip, or a description if I want to differentiate from one report to the other. The run history, how many number of occurrences do I want to allow this report to run or to execute? Because remember, executing, you are hitting the server with the SQL against the package, which goes against the underlying database. So of course, it may take a lot of time. You may not want this report to be executed, 50 or 100 different times, because that's just going to bog up resources. Your report output versions. How many different versions of reports do I want to be able to have saved for that? And you know what? Imagine we know that a report is associated with a package. Well, perhaps there is a new version of a package which is updated, and I may want to now link that report to another package. I can certainly do that. So that's within the General tab. And the second one is in with the Report tab. So you'll notice the default action for this report is to view the most recent version of the report. That's why when I clicked on that link as a consumer for this product and order method report, it looked like it was actually just running the report, but all it was doing is showing me the last version of the report run. So that's the default for most reports, is just to view the most recent report. Of course, yes, you notice that I could either run the report, or I could have the default when I clicked on the link to open with Report Studio. This will dynamically change though, because perhaps it was a report that was created in Query Studio. So that means that this would actually say open with Query Studio if I clicked on that link. Now what I want to focus on here is the advanced options. So there's a little link in the Report tab for advanced options. And by default, these two options are not selected. Enable enhanced user features in saved output versions, and enable comments in saved output versions. These are advanced features. So I'm going to toggle those switches on, and we're going to say OK. And for this report, product and order method report, I'm going to then go to the second option, which is run with options. So in the run with options, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to A, save the report, and I'm going to click on the right-hand side the advanced options. So perhaps I want to generate a number of different versions of this report. So I'll bring over a PDF and an Excel. Okay. I also want to send the report by email. All right. Let's edit the options of this report. Not only is it going to go to the admin person, well, that's by default. But what if I want to make this go? I'm going to delete that user, and I'm going to select the specific recipient. In this case, I'm going to go to my LDAP all the way down here, and I want to send an email to Frank Breton. I like Frank. He's a good guy, and I want him to get this email. So what I'm going to do is I'll just do a search for Frank. I doubt there's many Franks in my organization. So there's one. Frank is now going to be on my to list. Okay, there's my report. I could say something like, please review this report. All right, attach the report and also maybe include a link to the report. So we'll say that to Frank, and now we're going to say OK. So we've already saved the report. Now we're going to click on Run, and we're going to view the details of the report. I like to get in the habit of viewing the details of the report, after the report's been now running or executing. So we can see the status of the report has now been executing. So remember, this is going to take a little bit of time because not only am I generating HTML output, but I'm also doing a PDF and a 2007 Excel, and I'm also sending this report to specific users. So we wait for a little second and we do refresh. Now we can see, okay, the status has succeeded. And what has happened? Okay, so there are email messages waiting to be sent, and yes, the email messages were sent to one recipient. And you'll notice that there are report outputs. I'm not going to click on that link yet because I want to click on Close first. Because what I want to show you now is that you notice this product and order method report. If we look over into the actions, we actually see a brand new icon. This is the output versions that were generated for that report. So if I was to, click on that output versions of the report, remember I said that I wanted to generate both an HTML, a PDF, and an Excel. Well, let's take a look at one of these. I'm going to log in. I'm going to go to my HTML report, and you'll notice that this opens up in IBM Cognos Viewer. So remember, there's a couple of things we can do in here. Add comments. I now have the ability to add a comment. I'll say, please, review, and I really want to review, I'll just say revenue values, okay? I'll say camping equipment email looks incorrect. Just something to put in there, and I'll say now finish. So that report is now have a brand new comment that's included in there. So again, any user that would now log in, they will be able to see any specific value that's any comment that's been actually placed in here. Because I'm still logged in as the administrator, I could either view, modify, or delete that. So what else can I do? Watch new versions. Alert me about new versions of this report. And as soon as you click on that, all the alerts will be sent to the admin user, because remember, that's who I'm logged in. And that email address, by the way, is part of my user who's currently logged in. So the report's going to be sent to me by email every time a new version becomes available. Okay, we say okay. And the other option I have is to do the following. Okay, I can right-click now on any cell, and I can also say alert using a new watch rule. Okay, so what I'm going to say is revenue is greater or equal to that value. So that means that we know that the condition is going to be met in that case. So for those specific values, I want to say next. Maybe I want to send the report by email. It's going to go to the admin person. I want to publish a news item, which is going to go to that location. And finally, send a notification as well. So all three of those options, and of course I can go in there and edit the options, such as modifying the subject of my email address and so on. But for those, we're just going to do the defaults for this. So alert me with a new watch rule when that's completed. Okay, and you know what? We'll say is revenue. Yeah, I'll just say yes. No, we want to create a new entry. Already exists. I'll just say call this revenue alert and say okay. So we have a brand new alert. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to close this off and close that again, and we're going to do again run this report. So we want to now save the report, run the report, okay, and now because there's going to be a brand new version of this report, so then again specific things are going to happen. My alert has now taken place. We know that my revenue value is that fact, so I should have a news item, an email, and a brand new report. So we'll just do a little bit of a refresh. Again, email messages waiting to be sent. They were sent. I click on close. There is our brand new news item that was just generated, because this is an alert. The product and the order method revenue is greater or equal to that value. We know that an email was sent, so let's actually verify that. We'll open up a browser, and first thing we want to do is log on as Frank Breton, because remember, this individual had an email already sent from the admin. This is what happened the very first one. And look, there you go. I log in as Frank. I go to my email. There's my product report. So all the different output versions of that report, perhaps now if I want, I can save them locally to my file system. I should have the link to the report, and there they are. And the last one, remember, we logged in as the admin person. Okay, so if we were to close that, let me just close that one down. And this time we were logged back in as the admin person. So we'll just put it in localhost, admin person, I'll log in as my admin person user into my email client. Okay, and as the admin person, there's a number of different options there, right? So there, a new version of the report is now available. You remember that because we asked for that. The revenue, there's my, what do you call it, my alert, my watch rule, and then finally, the admin person has sent me a notification, right? So again, a number of different ways of looking at the information. Now, something else we want to show you was the notifications. So right now we're logged in again as the admin person. And what I can do is from my little, this is my preferences. We have the watch rules, right? And if I go into, for example, my preferences as the admin person, I could say, okay, I want to, apply some, alternating backgrounds in my list view. Maybe I want to be looking at a totally different style or a different theme. Maybe I want to be looking at detail information or a different time zone. So I make whatever changes I want there, and I can say, okay. So now, look at that. I'm logged in as the admin person. I'm looking at alternating backgrounds. I've made some changes. My theme is now different. So you can do that as a user. You have the ability to modify your own theme. From else there within my preferences, in the personal tab. Remember, I logged in as the admin person. My default email address is admin@grtd. Perhaps I want to overwrite that. Maybe I wanted to send that to my corporate address rather than the one that's being used right now. I could see what credentials I have access to and all the different portal tabs that belong to me as an individual user. Also, as the admin, we're going to go into what's called my inbox. So within my inbox, imagine that I'm the manager and I want to create a brand new task for somebody. So I go to task, I say I want a new task. Okay? Now, potential owners. This is what, if I want to add some recipients, and I'm going to say, again, back to my LDAP people, show users in my list, okay? And we're going to bring this back to Frank again. It's not like I've made Frank work hard enough today. He's going to do some more for me. Now, Frank is going to be a potential owner. And I'm also saying that the admin person is a stakeholder. They have a stake in what transpires for this. All right, so we say okay, and this is going to be review reports, just something that's in there. I want them to start by a specific time. So we're going to say start by tomorrow, and it has to be due on Monday. It is a high priority, and I can just say something like, please review reports. Just something very simple in there. Now, with the advanced, though, what I could do is send a notification if it hasn't been started by that date. So if Frank is on vacation and he hasn't started by that date, then send me a notification. Also, send me a notification it's been started, if anyone has put comments on, or if the owner has changed. All right, so we've got all that information. We now save this. This is a new task called review reports. That's what the administrator or the manager would do. So that's all fine and dandy. And then now all of a sudden Frank wants to log on. He comes back from his vacation. So he logs on as a valid user. And of course, Frank's going to be able to see his day. So I could either remove me as owner, or I could change the owner. Frank has that capability. Or I could, it's not started. Well, actually, it is going to be started right now. And perhaps I want to put in a comment in here. So I could either user comments or any auditing comments. I could say I just started. Correctly, it started now. Nice little comment that's in there. So now we have a saved comment that's available for me. Again, we go back and forth. I say it's now started. I now save this. And of course, now if I was to simply log back on as an admin person, because remember, I want to be notified once that's happened. So we log back on as admin, and now the admin would go back in. You can see how this is a back and forth. I set up a job. Frank says it's good. It's all started. Now it comes back to me. Okay, so now I can see that Frank Brenton has in fact started it. He put in a comment. Any comments? There's Frank's in there. I could reply back with my own comment. I can go back and forth if I want. So this is all encapsulated within my inbox. Again, just think of it as your own personal email notification area for your different users. So if we go back into, let's go back into my preferences and then change it back the way we had it earlier. I believe this was corporate, and we're looking at list information. That looks exactly what we had before. So remember when we talked about this sales and marketing page? Well, this is actually a page that I created as a admin person. Okay, I want to have my own view of my dashboard. Okay, so there's my IBM Cognos Navigator, so I can navigate, put whatever widgets I want within here. Perhaps I want to click on the New Horizons folder, and there's my report that's run. So I can now click on my product and order method report, and within my IBM Cognos viewer, that's another widget, so I can see my report output directly within there. I see everything, list, crosstab, and my chart report. So I can customize whichever I want. If perhaps I want to create a new tab, okay, I can add a new tab to this report. And what entries do I want within there? Okay, well, within public folders, maybe within my samples, models, pick some Go Data Warehouse query, and a report sample, okay? So really I can add what content I actually want to appear in that specific report that I'm looking at. I can reorder my tabs, edit the page, add anything I want within there. Again, really I'm creating new pages, new dashboards if I want. So there's a new page, or if I want to edit my existing page. Right? So in my existing page, I happen to have 3 specific columns. I have a navigator, a search, a viewer, and I also have an HTML viewer, an image viewer, and an RSS viewer. So I choose whatever page style I want, whatever permissions. I'm really flexible in the fact that I can generate a page. It's my page, it belongs to me, and I can even specify who else has access in order to view this page. So now we'll go back into the connection here. I want to go back to the home, and we want to touch on, make sure we look at everything here. Again, from my view box, my activities and schedules, there's my watch items. So remember my product and order method report, that will happen to be a one watch item because I'm looking for new versions that become available. I want to be emailed on that. I look at the specific watch rules. There is my revenue alert, so I can come in here. I can disable them. I can do whatever I want. I can delete it right now if I want. Again, this right now the status is enabled. That's something that I can modify, customize if I want. So they're enabled, disable them there. And I also wanted to, what else did I want to show you here within there? The watch rules, yes, the saved versions of the report. So if I go back into my New Horizons, so there's my product and order method report. We wanted to show you how to schedule that report. So the last tab, or the second last tab before the more link, I can say I want to schedule this report. So this report is going to be run either by day. I can say I want to run every 1 minute, which means it'll just run every 1 minute. I can say I want to run by week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at a specific time period if I wanted to do that. Whatever options are there for the delivery, any prompt values, again, I can set those values, set my start date and my end date. So now if I say OK to that, and if I'm going to say OK to that report, now that report's being scheduled, if anyone had done this, now that the admin person is logged in, they can go into the IBM Cognos administration and they can see, okay, current activities, anything that's run in the past, any upcoming activities, who ran it, any upcoming activities, there we go. and also I can click on schedule. So there's my product and order method report. I can see how it's scheduled right now to run, run the schedule, runs, modify. Again, these are specific properties that an admin user or a system administrator will then be able to go in and see, because remember, the system administrator is God mode. They can do anything they want within the application. They can modify the themes of different users. Although you as a specific user has capability to change your own view, always remember that the system administrator can then make modifications to that as well, to make any changes. So I believe that covers everything at a high level of the generic view of what a consumer can do. At this point in time, I'd like to pass it over to Anthony to ask for any questions.
Thank you, Shane. We don't have any questions up right now. If you guys have questions, feel free to type them in right now, and I'll relay them over to Shane. So I'm not seeing any questions being typed in right now. If that's the case, I want to say thank you to everyone for coming out, and we hope you enjoyed the presentation today and learned some new things. Shane and myself will be hanging out here for a couple more minutes in case there are any questions that you guys want to give to us. Otherwise, again, thanks for coming out and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.